Well, now we've got a fabulous guest tonight,
So excited.
Diane Zeman, and she goes by Crazy Moose in chat. And we went to her, actually it all started with Donna.
Yeah.
Do you want to bring her on, or do you want to talk first?
Well, totally whatever you'd like to do, but quickly, I remember when I was with a group, Bay Area Paranormal Investigations, and they were contacted to go to this woman who was in great trauma about this entity that she was dealing with. And so myself and Michael, who was leader of the group, we went out to meet her, and I still very clearly remember meeting Diane, and just how nervous she was, how scared she was, and she's written this fabulous book about this whole account that she went through in her life. What's that?
No earthly.
Right, no earthly idea. And it's all about this amazing happening in her life and where she lived. It's an amazing area that she lives in, which she'll tell you about much more clearly than I am. But I just remember meeting her, and from where I met her very first time till now, or even before that, how she had went through this trauma and came out the other side a much stronger woman. And it's an amazing book, and she'll tell you it's coming out in 3 days?
Yeah, 3 days.
Coming out in 3 days. I wrote the foreword for it, so I was very honored to be asked to do that. And so, yes, let's bring on
All right, let's
Diane.
bring her on. Okay, Diane, I know you're watching. I'm going to contact you. I'm going to call you, honey, right now.
Nice picture. Is her face going to come up, or is that what's
Oh,
going
no,
to
we'll see your face.
Oh, nice. We get to see her face. I hope she got makeup on.
Oh, Diane?
Yeah.
There she is.
Hey!
We can't.
There
Is
she
that on
goes.
TV, is it?
Yes. I can see it.
Oh, here I am.
You look good. Hi.
Ken,
Here I am on the East Coast.
which one do you go by on the book?
Diane Zeman, which was my maiden name and one that all my friends from school and everybody knows me as. So that's the name that I wrote the book under, and at the request of my mom and dad. So that's who I am.
And your book is called No Earthly Idea.
Idea. And I came up with that title because that was the beginning of the when I first posted on an online forum. The title of the posting was "I have no earthly idea what this is." That was the name of the post, and I'm sure there's people in chat there who will remember that, EJMJ and Brooke, if she's there, and Glimmy Siren, and some of the people that have been listening to my story from 2006, 2007, goes back that far. And so I took those, I have no earthly idea, 3 words from that posting, and that's how I came up with the name of the book. So I actually got the cover of the book in the mail. It was express mailed to me today. So this is the first day I've seen it, the front, the side, the back. So I'm going to show it to you.
Yeah, go ahead.
And this is it. This is it.
Awesome.
That's nice.
And then the back. And on the
Wonderful.
inside of the flaps is the picture of me and a little bit of my biography, not a lot, but what the book is about. And then there's a quote on the back by Norene that was submitted. So she's got Donna's actually on the front. She wrote the foreword for the book. And Norene's on the back, and that was the quote that was chosen for the back of the book. So it's kind of cool that you two are sitting in the room now with my very first online show about this, since you're both noted in the book.
How did this all come about?
Well, what I saw in late September in 06, and I'll give the description of what I saw the very first time I saw it. It's still very vivid in my mind. I was coming home from the grocery store with my youngest son Noah, who was 6 or 7 at the time, And he was sitting in the front seat of my Mountaineer, and we live up in the mountains in the Sierras. And I was getting ready to turn into my circular driveway off a private dirt road that led up to our property. And right before I turned in to go down into our circular drive, on the dirt road right past me, this thing went from one side of the road to the other, quickly running, just sprinting with his arms just pumping and his legs pumping, just going as fast as he could across the road. And when he reached the other side, he took a leap and then just disappeared. And he was somewhat transparent, but he was sharply outlined in black, and he was like 10 feet tall, and he didn't look like we do. And I sat there for probably, I don't know, it seemed like 10 minutes, but it was probably more like 2, probably with my mouth open, because I didn't know what that was. I didn't expect to see it, and still to this day, I don't know what it is. And I started researching on the internet. I became really obsessed about it. And then somebody suggested to me that I write some paranormal groups, so I did. And I sent out 2 or 3 letters to people in the Bay Area. And the first person that called me was Donna. And oh, thank God it was Donna, because if it had been anybody else, I probably would have died of fright. Because as like she told you earlier, I was just scared, confused. Something was going to hurt my kids, and what is this? And if it can go outside, it can come through my walls, and what's it going to do, and what its purpose is. And I expected her to show up with a book, and I could give her the description, and she would just go through it and say, oh, it's this, and I'd say, oh, okay, thank you, and that's how I would deal with it, and that would be the end of it. Well, that wasn't how it worked. And the time when I finally got real scared about it is when she said, okay, well, I'm going to call my team members, and we're going to move this into a full-fledged investigation and see if we can find out what it is you're seeing. And I thought, oh my God, not only does she believe me, but she's going to try to find out. And there were so many things going through my head. I just started keeping notes, and then I started writing on a forum about it, just giving the initial description and sitting back and waiting for the hate mail to come, or you're lying, but that wasn't what I received. And it was just a multitude, a plethora of people, kind people out there that just took me under their wing and showed me what to do and helped me with it and gave me all this research material and things to look for and things they asked me. And oh my gosh, it was just the most rewarding experience with the API for short, which Donna and Tim Wood were both members of. That they were the first team that came up to my house, and I think they were there 3 or 4 times.
Yeah, I think I remember that. I think it was like 3 or 4. Yeah, it was like 3 or 4 times that we came out there.
But I remember, I kept talking to them in between the times they would come up, and it's not like they showed up and set up their cameras and tried to get a picture and then just left. They would call me in between and talk to me, because I started having different problems. The more you look for things, the more you're going to find, and the things we found that I didn't even know were there were just blew me away. And these people just, they went on to other groups, and people kept calling, people kept coming up, and it was just the stuff that was found. There's just so much to talk about in an hour or 2 hours. That's when I just started making mental notes and physical notes in a diary of when I saw this creature running, who we eventually lovingly named Vincent. My daughter and I named him after Vincent Van Gogh and Vincent Price. Two names, that very mysterious guys that I did a paper in school about Vincent Van Gogh, and I've always loved Vincent Price movies. So.
But now your daughter has also, didn't your daughter or her boyfriends also seen Vincent?
Kayla did. Kayla had been seeing him for about 6 months before I even knew he existed, and her and her friend had sat me down one day and said they were seeing this weird thing, and they're 16 years old, and they're hormonal, and they're dramatic, and you think, okay, you listen, and okay. And I just talked it up to some, teenage drama stuff, and didn't really pay that much attention until about 3 or 4 weeks later, when I actually saw him run across the road, and that's when everything with me turned upside down.
So he was crossing the road, and was this during the day? Was it nighttime?
broad daylight.
In broad daylight. Now, how vivid is his description? I mean, how did he look? Did he look like he was a real person right there? Or was he blurry, foggy?
When I look back, if you'd ever seen the Predator movies.
Uh-huh. Oh, yeah.
It's somewhat similar to that, although there was sort of like a wave that went through him, but he was somewhat transparent in the center, but sharply outlined. So, he wasn't solid black, so it's not what people call shadow person. And, it wasn't a woman in Victorian clothing floating across my living room floor, which, by the way, would have been much easier to deal with. Donna, I'm sure you could attest to that. And he was like 10 feet tall, and he was very broad-shouldered and almost triangular, in like a real strong, almost cartoonish. And he was just running to beat the band and just pumped. I couldn't see his feet, but I'd never seen anything like that, nor would you ever expect to see anything like that.
But it was a male.
It was definitely male.
And could you see his face? Did he resemble an American Indian?
Only the profile, and it was like it was an outline, so there was no exact features there. I couldn't tell the color of his hair. I couldn't even tell you what he was wearing.
You could see hair on him?
It's like this image was partially there, but not all the way there.
Did you see his body, what he was wearing? Did he have clothes on?
I couldn't, I would hope so, but...
But it was all black.
He was black?
He was all black.
No, he was outlined in black.
He was outlined in black.
But he was somewhat transparent. He was somewhat see-through. It was like I still to this day struggle for the words to come up to describe it, because it's like he was somewhat see-through, but I could exactly see how he was outlined, what his form was, but he wasn't all there.
Okay, so when you saw him for the very first time, what did you do? Just walk out into your property and all of a sudden he showed up?
No, I was in my car.
You were in your car?
Yeah.
And I stood there, and then when I finally pulled into the drive,
okay, I know where your driveway is.
I got out of my car and I went around and got my son out, and I'd never done that before, and he looked at me funny. He's like, "Why are you doing that? What do you say?" Well, I just saw this really weird thing that went across the road, and he didn't look like he was human, and he's 7 years old. So he didn't know, even during the investigations, he wasn't aware that any of this was going on.
Right.
But he had his own separate set of problems that not associated with this, but still associated with this, as we found out much, much later in all the investigations and the online stuff that was going on. But the beginning of it certainly didn't turn out the same at the end of it. There was much more captured and almost actually verified.
The crazy part about your case was Vincent was definitely, and we never ever did see him. Anytime we went out there, we tried daytime, we tried nighttime, we left cameras running, and we never caught Vincent, or did we see him. But where Diane lived was just crazy. It was, you had little creatures that her daughter would see and her friends would draw that were out in the trees. You had Native Americans out there.
Aliens.
You had aliens, I'm sure. And you also had ghosts in your house.
Yeah.
Which we were in contact with.
I didn't know that, because I always felt safe inside my house.
Right.
So we didn't like to be outside much.
It was crazy out there.
It was, and I didn't, I lived there for a year before this even happened, and it didn't bother me at all. But until that happened, I don't know if it's something that you build in your mind or something that you're scared. But I had a couple episodes that scared me to death outside that you'll have to get the book to read about, because it's just too detailed to go into. But the mental part that it puts you through, not knowing what you're dealing with. And I thank God that I have the people around me, like Donna and Norene and all the people from the team, even Jesse and Tim and
Devin. Devin was there, one with this other. Leslie Webb, yes. But there was another entity that was captured.
There was on the thermal footage on that. That was the very first investigation, and that was filmed out live on the internet through LifeSite 5 when Donna was there. And actually, Donna, you weren't there that night.
No, I wasn't there that night, but I was watching.
I was there.
Norene was there.
I was there.
I know, but Donna wasn't there, and I was so bad. My daughter formed such a love for Donna and her wonderful
Vans.
shoes.
My Vans.
And her sense of style that, she did so much for Kayla and helping her deal with the things that she was going through. And she was only 16 at the time, and that was really hard for her. And I was so scared that it would get out. I didn't want anybody to know my real name. I didn't want anybody to know where we lived, and I didn't want the kids at the school where they went to know that this was going on, because kids can be cruel as it is, and I didn't want anybody to know we were going through this. So it was just like hush hush, everything had to be hush hush.
Yeah.
But it was just when I finally agreed to do the first live video stream, the first investigation. The reason I agreed to do it was because I wanted to give something back to all the people in the forums that I'd been talking to. And I just wanted to give them a glimpse inside my world where it all happened. I didn't expect anything to be caught. I didn't at all. And that wasn't the case at the end, because we caught that infamous thermal footage, which, by the way, is going to be on national television in not too distant future.
Awesome. Wonderful.
Yeah, there's I don't think I'm supposed to name the show, but there's a show that's going to be testing it.
Wow, I can't wait to see that.
Yeah. You don't want to just release it to anybody and put it out there. It has to be real for me. Number one, it had to be truthful and honest and just the facts.
Well, I've seen that footage over and over and over.
Yeah.
And it's amazing.
If you go to noearthlyidea.com, the website for the book, and click on the thermal little colored picture at the bottom, you'll go directly to the video of that. And that was taken on the very first.
Yeah. Well, Devin and I can testify to that, because Devin,
down there by the.
we were there. I came up when they caught it. Devin was right there, and I came up, and we know for a fact it was for real. We know that for a fact.
Yeah, there wasn't anything there. And plus the fact that there was something there was only 2.5 feet tall by measuring, where the tree was and where it went behind. And we've done so many measurements with that, so.
Well, it looks like a little marshmallow man. I've never seen anything like it. Yeah, like a puff, the little biscuit guy.
Yeah.
I've never seen anything like that, ever, ever, ever. And I don't think we ever will.
Nature Spirit or something like that. Nature Spirit or something.
Yeah, elemental. So there's so many, you get the cryptozoological area of the paranormal, and this would fall into that. There were so many beings out, and I say beings, besides the ghost, there were so many beings that were out there that nobody's ever seen before. And there were so many layers in this whole, and the really interesting part, along with the really interesting part, was that your neighbors were having experiences.
Yeah.
People out there, it wasn't just Diane and her house, it was the whole community were having different experiences.
Each had their own acreages.
Right.
And the guy that built our house had built his 5,000 square foot redwood home at the end of the road for him to, to live in for the rest of his life. And from what I understand now, he's desperately trying to sell it.
Right.
He was having experiences before I left, and it was freaking out. I know it was freaking out his wife and daughter. So I don't know. I've only been up there once since in 2 years, and that was last May. And things haven't changed much there. Although I was hoping to see Vincent, because I actually kind of miss him, but I didn't see him. So it'd be cool if I did.
No, he never came in the house. You always saw him outside on the property?
Only during the daylight running. My daughter would seeing him run up and down the road, the long dirt road.
Right.
I saw him go across the road. I saw him in my rearview mirror one time, and my cat actually chased him.
That's right.
Really?
Yeah.
No, not Spirit. It was Trixie. Spirit's my cat now. Trixie. She was trying to get in the front door, and so I went to go let her in, and by the time I got to the front door, she was turned around, and she was laying on, just laying down and with her head up and looking towards the road, and all of a sudden, there he was. running up the road. And she perked up and her eyes, her ears went up and off she took. And I stood there with my mouth open thinking, what's gonna happen if she catches up to this? Is he gonna take her through with him wherever he disappears to?
Oh my God.
But by the time she got there, he was gone.
And he's always running?
Always running.
Why?
Run.
Why is he always running?
I want to
Like
say,
he's sprinting.
we
like
have,
sprinter whip.
we have some theories. Do you remember when Dee came out, Diane?
Yes.
And
yes.
I can't remember what she said he was. Do you remember? Of course
He
you
was
remember.
Artie.
Yeah.
Well, she actually thought that there was more than one.
Right, they were doing tag or something, she kept saying.
Yeah, but I never saw more than one at a time. And we also brought up Jason Lindo from Sacramento. Do you remember him?
Yes.
She brought them up at the same time.
Yes.
And he felt that there was something to do with Indian spirit dances or something like that. But what we found out later is, remember Donna, when you were trying to do the research on the area?
Right.
And the name of the town had actually changed, like in the 40s, but you couldn't go back any further to find out why they changed it. So
Right.
we never could go back, but the whole area was built around the Miwok Indian land, and there's burial grounds everywhere. So we found remnants of an old structure that we assume looked like would have been an old trading post, because this was right in the heart of gold country.
Yeah.
Where the miners were. So I figured it looked like it had burned down, and it was at the base of our property.
Well, you had something buried in the back in the woods where you left me. Yeah, you left me.
The night the dogs.
Yeah. And she leaves me with all the equipment and runs like hell, and I'm down there with all this equipment on me.
I took big strides.
And then she gets into the house and is on the balcony at Diane's house and says, come on, Norene, come on. Oh yeah, right, thanks.
There were mad dogs out, and I have a fear of wild dogs.
Oh, so it was, oh my God.
I know. They would go after people in the neighborhood, so these dogs would get over the fence on the wood, and so she said, no, they're put in. Well, I guess the owner had come home and let the dogs out, and they got out, and I freaked out and left Norene in the dust. Yeah. But anyway, besides leaving her in the dust.
There's even a tree down there, they'll never find you.
No, we're stuck in the trees, and down there was, in one area was a woman, and I can't remember her name. But she was down there, and I would talk to her, and then, but over to the right where we got in the real trees was this area that you just felt you were not to go in, and I got really big. It was Native American, and that it was a sacred area, and we were not supposed to be in it.
Yeah, and you said, let's leave this area.
Yeah.
I remember you saying that.
Yeah, what, Diane?
That's where I found those beads.
Yeah.
And I had read about that just to leave them alone, so I did. And then they disappeared, so I don't know where they eventually went. But my daughter was seeing stuff that had gone into a tree that didn't look anything like anything else we'd seen. It was one afternoon from school, and it was like an oval, 4-foot tall oval thing with an out. She described it as having a yellow highlight around it, but not shining like the sun, just a color. And it moved, it was between her and the house when she came up on the path from the school bus to the back of the house, and she didn't know what to do, so she just moved over to the right, and she kept watching it, and then she took off running, and then stopped, and she watched it move down towards the bottom of the lane, and it went into a tree, and just didn't come out the other end. And by the time she got in the house, she was ashen white. She could not explain, didn't know what it was. She went through a lot up there, and she doesn't really want to have a whole lot to do with this stuff, and I don't blame her, really.
Yeah, it was hard on her.
It was very hard for her.
She was because she was quite sensitive, and she was experiencing a whole lot of different things, and then trying to be a normal kid and not be thought of as odd, and just didn't know what to do with it all.
And then on the other hand, we had my 7-8-year-old who was talking to kids in his room.
Yes.
The kids, remember the kids, and that's what we got that amazing, Donna and Leslie were in there that night, got that amazing EVP that just spooked the holy crap out of me.
Yeah.
Had her child go, and that's when...
What did it say?
have your child go. It was a man's voice that was talking about, at the same time that Donna and Leslie were both talking, and Brooke Pierce, who worked in the sound for a production company, had took the audio and worked on it and sent it back, and she's like, oh my God, I don't even want to give this to her. But once I heard that, it's like, okay, my house went up for sale, and still never sold it. It's still, still own it up there, so, but I left. Not right after that, but as soon as I could. But it was, Noah had his own set of things going on up there, but he was totally oblivious to it because he just figured everybody else saw it,
Yeah.
It's like, the kids, the kids. It's like, what kids? The kids.
Well, didn't they used to throw rocks at his window from the outside?
Yeah, he had to come outside and play at night, he said, but you saw where his room was way up there, and we'd run an incline.
Yeah.
And the stomping along the back deck, and we finally, at the last minute, put in a large a spread photo of the back of the house from the bottom of the land, so you could see how high up the deck was as opposed to where the ground was, to show, where people were thinking maybe it was a deer or something stomping across my deck, and if you could see the back of the house, you'd know that a deer wouldn't go up there. There's just too many curves and steps and stuff to take, so we ended up putting that in the book at the end. But the way I ended up writing the book was I didn't want to go into the whole 9 yards about my childhood and my brothers and sisters and growing up in Iowa and blah blah blah. That's just kind of a Midwestern kind of boring stuff. I just give a Reader's Digest version of that, and I just, the first 100 pages talks about all the different experiences, point blank, from thing to thing to thing, and then we put in all of the forum notes from both forums in full. Most of the research and information you're going to find in that area of the book, because there was just, even my editor said, first when she was editing, she went through for grammar and stuff like that, and then when she finally edited for content, she said, oh my gosh, this stuff is fantastic, and it was. The people that were there in those forums were just unbelievably helpful to me, and that is the story right there, and we call them the Vincent Diaries. It wasn't about groups on the forums. People were, there was an area of the forum you could go and promote your group, but it was just about individual help. And I don't know what people saw in my story. I think it was because it was different from what I'm reading, but when I started writing it, I didn't know the difference between this or that. I had never watched Ghost Hunters before this happened to me. The only thing I never watched was the Amityville Horror. And
now there's a story.
That's it. And so people were saying, in the other forum that we actually posted notes, it's actually where I was challenged by a rogue poster. And it ended up being a good thing for me because somebody was challenging my credibility. And I was offended. It's like, how dare you challenge my credibility? I mean, it's like I got nothing else to do with my time. I mean, I had 2 kids, I had a house, I had 2 businesses I was running. Like, I've got time to sit around and dream of this crazy, wild story and just see how people, react to it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And still, I'm prepared for that. But it actually helped prepare for me even today, because I know that once this book is out, that I'll get that.
Yeah.
I'm ready for it, because you know what, I think skeptics keep people real, and I think that I'm still a skeptic on a lot of things, ghosts and stuff, just because they say it is. I see pictures on people's website with orbs, and they're saying, oh, and I'm thinking, oh my God, it's dust, or it's a bug. If you look at those things long enough, you can tell. And I think people just want to believe so bad sometimes that they'll just, they'll eat it all up. And I don't know where that comes from, but there's a lot of fake stuff out there, which is really sad for the rest of us.
Yeah.
Really sad. I think you guys know that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So, very hard. Very hard. But I say bring it on. Bring it on. I'm ready.
Awesome.
Oh, you're getting feedback now. You have a computer on.
Who does? Not me.
I heard the feedback from your house.
We could hear me. Why can we only hear me? There, it's gone now.
No, I think her husband has the computer sound on, because I heard the feedback.
No. He's It's like,
Oh, that's weird. I heard feedback.
It's ghosts.
I heard voice.
this house, there's nothing in this.
I know, in this house, in Miss Norene's
No, it's
house.
coming through that computer.
It's Norene's house. She has quite the haunted house. You do.
All right, so how, yeah, somebody else heard it as well.
There we go. They're messing with us.
Oh, you're awake. Do you have sound on back? But I can't hear your sound. No, I can't. No, I guess he's up, but I can't hear us.
I heard it for a few things I said, and now it's gone, so we don't know where it came from.
Oh my
Dun, dun,
God.
dun. Where you started to where you are now, what's the biggest lesson you got out of all this? What did you acquire?
I think that it's okay not to know. I think maybe we're not supposed to know, or it's okay to seek and help, but maybe we're just not supposed to know. You know, and the lesson isn't about knowing, it's about understanding that there's just things out there that aren't explainable, that you'll never be able to explain. Unless you can walk up and have a one-on-one conversation with them, I don't think you'll ever. And I've actually tried to steer this toward a more scientific level. Instead of calling the ghost hunters out, I want to send it to scientists and physicists and people who deal with alternate realities and paranormal universes, because I've always thought from day one, even not knowing a whole lot about this, that Vincent was not a ghost, that he was something from another dimension that just
would come in and go out.
It's just coming in and out of view. Maybe the veil is thin there or whatever, but you know, if you remember that first night, Norene, when we were investigating live and we had all our video equipment up there on the road, which was a new thing for me. I'd never done this with a group. I was so excited this is going to be heck fun. But then again, I got to be on the road at night. And, never done that before. all of our equipment just, remember, our batteries, everything just died.
Yeah.
And everything's charged. I had brand new batteries in my camera, and everything just died. And it was shortly after that is where the thermal picked up that little nymph.
Yeah.
Running through the woods there.
Yeah, he was running between the trees.
Woods.
He was running between the trees.
Yeah, he was up ahead of you and running.
Peeking and then running
Yeah.
away.
And what's funny about it, if you guys go watch the video,
It's crazy.
he was like, he hid and then he peeked out.
But the thing is, you know,
I
it's
love
been
that.
studied, that has been studied all the way into Ireland, actually, and the scientists that came back from way over there said, the only thing that we can tell you is whatever it is not living, because there's absolutely not a shred of hue to it at all. It has no
Pure
color.
white.
It's
Pure
solid
white.
white. It's,
Yeah.
everything around it has got a color to it, which is what a infrared thermal camera picks up. The heat signature, there was no heat. There was
No.
nothing to it at all.
Pure
Not even an
white.
outline.
No.
But see, what I don't agree with is they say it's not living. It's not living in our terms. It's not a human living. It doesn't mean it's not living.
Living as we know it.
Right. So I just want people to understand, it's not a ghost. It's
Yeah.
living in a different,
Dimension.
Yeah.
Probably in another
It's only
dimension.
visible on thermal.
right.
So, I mean, first thing I asked when because I was standing right behind him when he downloaded that from the server online, and there were so many people watching, and the first thing I said, well, is it a raccoon? Because, you know, raccoons, first of all, don't generally walk on their hind legs and run, but if it was, it would have been multicolored. So
Right.
It wasn't. Plus, there's not really a whole lot of that stuff running around in the middle of that area anyway. It's all full of poison ivy and brush. Well, there was one night when I turned on some audio that I captured 4 hours of audio from 1 o'clock in the morning to about 3:34 of stuff that I can't even begin to tell you what it is. It sounds like somebody throwing wood on fires and people running up and giggling, and it was just, and I was listening live because Kayla had thought she'd seen something outside with her friend, and so we were looking. There's nothing out there, and it wasn't windy or raining, but it just sounded like there was all this stuff going on, and it's like there was nothing going on. I got 3.5 hours of audio footage not footage, but audio tape that I can't explain. I haven't put that out there too much because it's just, some of it's so bizarre that it's nobody's gonna believe it.
Right.
It was like a video of that door opening or closing.
Right.
You know, if you guys didn't know me, I mean, that would be so easy to fake. But, you know, my kids were in school, and you saw where I was sitting downstairs and how that was all open upstairs. Well, you know, that was in Kayla's room, and we all know what Kayla's room was like.
Yeah.
So.
And there was somebody.
So, you know, I didn't put any of that stuff out there because, you know, I didn't need the stress of somebody saying, oh, that's fake. Because, you know, I was there, I witnessed it, I know, taking a phrase from Vince Vaughn from, what was that movie he just did? I Know My Truth? What movie was that where they went away to that resort?
Oh, the couples retreat? Yeah.
Because I do know my truth, and that's, you know, it's so, I didn't feel the need to get that put out there. You know, and I had other more famous groups want to come up to the place and it's like, what can you offer me? I mean, can you give me help? Can you tell me what it is? And if not, I don't need verification. I didn't.
No.
I just wanted answers, and if you could give that to me, I'm not about to boost your ratings on TV. So right. I turned down several pretty well-known television shows.
Nobody else up there saw him but you?
My daughter, her friend.
But none of your neighbors?
Well, Crazy Pat said she did, but then we call her Crazy.
So. Oh, I remember Crazy Pat.
Yeah, I love Crazy Pat.
But she also, now...
But she, you know, maybe she was crazy because she lived there too long.
Yeah.
And she had, you know, remember her horses? Oh my God, they finally went mad.
Yeah, she had crazy horses.
And remember we went down to that, what was that?
Oh, the shed.
That shed down there?
Yeah, what did she say? The ghost would appear to us and he never did?
Oh, she was going to give us a guaranteed apparition. Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, right. Okay.
So we went down there and there wasn't
she did
anybody
have a lot of weird things, you know.
But it's funny because when you went down to the shed, as we would go down there and spend some time, it was more of feeling like you're being watched in the trees and in the bushes.
Yeah.
It wasn't the shed was all good.
Oh. I didn't like the woods on your property. It was freaky.
Yeah, you always felt like you were being watched by something or something.
I remember when I was walking on the side of your house, I was with Devin, and Devin and I were going down, and I don't remember, I think it was Devin who had the equipment, and we were doing live streaming, and I had my camera. And I don't remember if you were there that night or not. I had my camera, and I was taking pictures, and I was looking through the viewfinder. Oh my God, right in front of me was this thick, misty fog.
There.
And I said, oh my God, do you see that? And I snapped it, but I didn't get anything.
They got it on the film though.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, do you remember it came swirling in and then it seemed to recede, if I remember right?
Oh, I'll never forget that.
Yeah.
There were times when we would come home and we would go to the grocery store usually late at night, and Kayla would say, you know, Mom, one night she said, I used to think, you know, when you see on the movies, people would say, oh, I feel like I'm being watched. And I always thought, oh God, how stupid is that? How do you feel like you're being watched? And she goes, and then we moved up here, and now I know what they're talking about because it's so creepy. But, you know, we would come home and there would be fog across the road on everybody's property but ours. There would be no fog at our house, but across the street there was, and down the property beyond us and before us there would be fog where the dogs were. No fog in my house. It was just, I don't know, it was like you were in a bubble there.
Yeah.
And somebody asked me on the forum once, which really scared me. It was on the first forum that I know EJMJ, Kathy and Bluey Siren and Brooke and all those that were present for that first round of talks. Somebody asked me, have you ever thought that maybe they're watching us instead of us seeing them?
Oh, yes.
That really bothered me because watching us, what do they want to watch me for? You know, I'm just mom who sells online. I said, how can I be as boring as I possibly can be? Because they don't need to be watching me. Go away, somewhere else. That's, you know, I had all these weird thoughts, and some of the times people would make me think, which that was a good thing, but at some point I didn't need to think anymore because I had way too much on my plate at that time.
Right.
But you know, the one thing that I could tell people if they ever go through this is to get help and to surround yourself with people who will help you or will help you try to understand that it's okay to talk about it, that it's okay to open up to people in certain places. I mean, you don't want to walk into church and stand up at the podium and say that, I saw this really weird guy running on the property last night. He was see-through. You have to pick your place, but there's people out there that will help you. And that was my biggest lesson, and my biggest welcome was all the help that people just rallied around me. And it was so comforting to have that, and that's why I wrote the book, in hopes to find somebody who had seen something like this. Somebody asked me once, maybe you just want to be the only one. No, I don't. I don't want to be the only one. I want to find somebody else who's seen something just like Vincent, and I want them to come to me, and I'm going to have one heck of a conversation with them. So.
Did you ever try to make communication with him, or with it?
A conversation, no.
Make communication, try to communicate with it.
Right.
No.
You never did.
He never deviated, did he? Pretty much he just would do his same
He
thing?
never looked my way. He just went, it's almost like he didn't even know I was there. But if he had looked my way, I probably would have been scared. Because he was not like anything that you would expect to see. And it wasn't that he was hideous looking. He wasn't. He wasn't. But it just wasn't. It's not what you expect to see. And he's not us.
Now, you didn't hear any noises or weird sounds before he showed up?
The snow, nothing. No footprints, nothing. No noise. Not from him. We had the other stuff, the stomping across the deck like some 300-pound guy with steel-toed shoes went stomping across my deck with nobody there. That happened actually during the live investigation twice. And Leslie was there, and she heard it, and she just about jumped out of her chair. And we had motion detectors out there that kept going off, that we eventually had to shut off.
I remember that. They just kept, something has to go past it, and they just kept, they were loud.
I thought about not even selling it and just offering it up to paranormal groups. What a great place to train, oh my gosh. Great place to train up there.
Yes, they might come once, see Vincent, and they never come back, Diane.
It's not scary. It would be the guy in the heavy boots stomping across the deck.
Yeah.
More than Vincent would. Vincent's more of a, oh my gosh, that's so neat. Once you get past the fact that it's weird, it's kind of a neat thing, because eventually when I started seeing him, I saw him, I think I totaled 13 or 14 times, but I would start to make a mental list about what I wanted to look at the next time I saw him, what I wanted to look for the next time I saw him. Can I see his fingers? Can I see how far down on his legs can I see? Can I see any hair? Things like that. Is he wearing a shirt? Stuff like that. But it would come and go so quick that it was, but I got to concentrate on some of it, but he never showed up when you expected him to, only when you weren't.
So when you saw him, then you wouldn't even think about, hey, yelling at him, say, hey, who are you?
No.
Because it just happened so
fast. I did not pay attention to myself. Absolutely not. No. And trust me, if you'd seen him, Norene, you wouldn't either.
Oh, God.
I don't think anybody would. Yeah, what you think you'll do is usually completely opposite of what you actually will do in a given situation. No, I did not want to draw. If he turned around and ran towards me and looked at me, if you could die of fear, I would not be sitting here talking to you tonight. I would be dead.
Oh.
Because I would have. I didn't want to have a conversation with him. Even though there's some people, I want to know where he's from, but maybe he doesn't want to tell me that.
Right.
So I wasn't about to ask. No, I wasn't that gutsy at that point. I'm a little bit more gutsy now, but still, I think I just let it be. And just try to get him on film. Somebody said, well, carry a camera with you, but you don't realize how fast it happens. These days.
I know at one point you would put cameras outside of your house to try and get them, and I think you did, but couldn't find it, but really out of all the times that you tried to do that, you never did get him.
No, and I thought for sure the cameras were rolling once when he went down the front of the road, but I never could find it. Never could find it.
I remember that.
I had hours and hours. I had 24/7 hours.
Yeah.
Of, running nonstop. I spent a fortune on surveillance cameras, night vision.
So your surveillance cameras never picked up any entities on it. Okay.
And a lot of times it didn't work. A lot of times it broke down. I had such problems with keeping them running, and I don't know if it was the area or what, but I had so many problems. I bought 3 different sets of cameras that I couldn't keep them running, so I finally gave up.
I'm just wondering if because he's in another dimension, and that's more than just him that's in another dimension that
Right.
comes in and out. Maybe you can't capture them on film,
I don't know.
but yet the little marshmallow man was captured.
Right.
Yeah, but you
So
can see.
maybe he wasn't in another dimension then. Maybe the little marshmallow man was just a ghost. But
Maybe
Vincent.
the only way that we can see them is on infrared.
Right.
Oh yeah,
There you go.
that's yeah. I bet you're right.
I have a theory about EVPs too. What if that's really not a ghost? What if that's just overlay or talk that we're picking up from
Residual that's hanging out.
all universes or interdimensional stuff. Things that physicists say they're right in front of us. We just can't see them. And what if we're picking up the chatter?
Right.
There, but then you start getting answers to questions. Can they hear us, but we can't hear them? But why does it show up on an audio tape, but something that you can't hear?
Well, sometimes you can hear the voices with your own ears. Sometimes you can, and I can prove that. The rods.
Yeah.
I can prove by one of my shows that. The rods and the and the voice recorder coordinate, and we tried that. I tried that as an experiment. I wanted to see. So one of my investigators was doing the EVP work on the digital, and my other investigator was doing the rods. And when the questions were asked, her rods would either say yes or no, and eight times on the digital voice recorder matched the rods.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So I believe in the rods.
Wonderful.
I truly believe in the rods. If they're done right, I believe in the rods.
Right.
So when does the book come out officially?
Well, it was supposed to be out on the 28th, and I just got word today that it's going to be another 10 days, I think. So another 2 weeks.
You have a lot more in the book than just Vincent.
There was a lot more that happened that I didn't talk about in the forums, that I didn't talk about to everybody, because in the forums I really wanted to keep it about Vincent. I didn't want to stray off that subject, because that's what my focus was. I wanted to learn about him. I wanted to find out if anybody knew about him and what that was.
I would think that as, a lot of what's happening in the world is these veils or these worlds are kind of overlapping into ours. These time rips are happening. And I think more and more people are going to start experiencing things similar to yours, if not just like. If it happened to you, then the odds are at some point it's going to happen to somebody else.
Well, it's got to happen to somebody else. I'm just thinking that somebody it's just too crazy that they don't want to talk about it, because it's not what you think.
Right, and hopefully with you writing the book and then going out into the world to promote it and talk about it, the more you talk about it, more people are going to hear your story, and somebody's bound to come up and say, oh my gosh, I've got one too.
Yeah, I'm hoping.
Yeah.
You'll get the people say, oh, you're crazy. It's like, well, okay, what a great out that would be for me. For somebody to say, okay, Diane, you have a mental problem. Okay, thank you, I never saw it, it's never happened, cool.
Right.
That would be the easiest way out for me, because
So why do you think?
I might not have wanted to go through this experience.
Right.
Why do you think you and your daughter were the only two that have seen this and nobody else has seen it?
Well, my daughter's friends saw it too. They saw it at different times and weren't telling each other. And then when they both saw it one day on the same day together, she'd been staying with us for about 6 weeks. And it was just, it was only women. So, but then the guys weren't really there very much. So it was only there during the day. I mean, maybe you could see him at night, but how could you?
Right.
You'd almost see through. I mean, how could you see him?
On the dark,
Maybe he was
unless
there,
in
I
the
don't
dark
know.
he's another color, maybe?
I don't know.
Another color?
Yeah, he might, he's dark during the day, but maybe at nighttime, maybe he glows, who
Maybe.
knows?
But he wasn't really dark. He was just outlined, but he was somewhat transparent through the center of him. So it was. I'm hoping to work with one of the local colleges around here, one of the graphics departments, to have them do some sort of an animation. I would love to be able to put it on an animation to show people.
Oh, I would love to see that.
To see what Maybe I'll call up Steven Spielberg, maybe he'll.
There you go.
Me, or James Cameron. Are you listening?
So each time you saw him, did he always look the same height, about 10 feet tall? Always?
Always.
But you didn't see his feet?
Same profile.
But you didn't see his feet?
Nope.
No, but was he just like floating by, or was he like running?
Running, his arms were flapping and his legs were coming up, and he was like a sprinter. If you can imagine what Carl Lewis looks like when he sprints, like a hurdler.
Right, so his arms were going.
Back straight, and he was just, his arched back, his posture was perfect. Just running, just run. But maybe it was just told to me that maybe the question was proposed that maybe their time is different from our time, and maybe what happens in their time is faster to us. That's why he was just going so fast. I don't know anybody who would be constantly running, unless it was residual of something. But he wasn't in the same place every single time. So when you've seen something so clear in broad daylight right in front of you that you can't deny is there, and you can't offer it up on a platter for somebody to decipher. That's not always an easy place to be, and I'm not going to defend myself with it, because it happened. If you don't want to believe me, then move on. Shoo, because it's just a waste of my time.
Right.
I was never looking to get famous or be on TV or even write a book about any of this stuff. The only reason I decided to write the book was people in the forums were talking about it so much, and I thought, what a great way to get my story out there for people to read and maybe give somebody some comfort that was going, just embarking on this type of journey themselves. Because I've changed from the first time I met you guys till what I am now.
Right.
I've completely changed my life. So I just hope that somebody, gains some hope from it and knows that there's, it's not the end of the world, and you're not crazy. Experiences are there, every single one of them. And they're not, not lengthy. Some of them are short, so it goes from subject to subject. But everything happened, and as crazy as it sounds, you'll understand why I didn't talk about them openly before. But, I'm done being embarrassed about it, because why be embarrassed?
Right.
It happened. I can't tell you why. I don't think anybody can tell me. Spiritual Walk Publishing has a wonderful little marketing department there who put out all the press releases and did such a great job, and they're sending it all out to paranormal conferences and stuff all for next spring and summer. So I don't know where I'll be speaking or talking, or where I'll be doing book signings, but or appearances on television, which will all be announced there and on the Northly Idea website, northlyidea.com, and the Facebook page.
Has anybody recently asked you to go up there to check it out?
Me?
Yeah, has anybody asked you recently if they could go up there and check it out?
Well, there's a show that's going to be probably doing the thing on the thermal footage. We'll be filming it directly from there. So I'll be up there again. I'll let you know when that happens. Maybe we can get together. So I'll have to be there for that too, Devin.
Yeah.
It was just Tim and Devin and Norene.
Wow. You and the boys?
It was just the three of us that night, are you sure?
And me, yep. Believe me, I remember.
Okay, it was Leslie, right?
It was Leslie and Donna weren't there.
I thought Leslie was there.
No.
There was one we weren't there.
Oh, I thought for sure she was there that night. I know Devin was with Tim, and then I came walking up, and they said, "You're not going to believe what we just saw," and Tim played it back on the thermal for me. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
Wow.
And he's like, "Oh yeah, we caught something in the woods." Like, really? And then he went up.
Remember, we were walking up the road towards your neighbors, toward the Patty's house. Crazy Patty. I remember we were walking up there, and I was trying to walk up. It was just a little bit elevated. Do you remember something kept trying to push me back?
Yeah, remember the haunted oak?
Oh, yeah, the oak.
On the other side of the road.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All the branches would go down before they go up. That was a freaky tree.
Yeah.
Freaky tree.
But I remember, that happened to you a lot on investigations. You always got pushed around.
Well, remember at,
San Remo.
oh, the San Remo, you were with me.
Yeah, Abigail, Agatha.
I don't remember. She
Started with
didn't
an
like
A. She didn't like, we were at the top in San Francisco at the San Remo, which is like a upscale hostel. And we were up top, and there was a very stern woman who was standing near where the stairs were, and Norene would try to get past her, and she would push her. And I was just talking about this, where Norene got past her, but as she passed her, she was going off, and all of a sudden Norene, I mean, you just see her like being pushed into, you almost went into the bookcase.
Yeah, to the bookcase, and you stopped me from falling.
Yeah, I grabbed her really quick, but this woman didn't like Norene for whatever reason, and so we kept trying to get Norene to go past her, and we're sitting on a couch, or a couch.
Love seat or something.
Love seat, yeah, and Norene just got pushed again. I mean, she was just, it was amazing.
Every time I tried to go down that hallway, and you said, Norene, she doesn't want you coming down here.
Yeah, I should not like her.
And
We finally quit doing it, because, oh my God, I thought she was going to throw her down the stairs.
yeah, really, that was
It's a
really
little different up there.
Yeah.
I've never felt anything like it since I left, thankfully.
wow.
So
You're lucky he didn't follow you. But it's
Yeah,
probably not
it
her.
had nothing to do with her,
Nothing to do
though.
with her, right?
Yeah, it just, she was in an amazing area to have this experience, and yeah, it was tragic that it was so scary, but once you kind of start, I think with many people, it's scary and you want to run from it, but once you start doing the research and you start kind of standing up to it, that's when you get your power back, and that's when you kind of can go through these things.
I don't think I ever got my power back. I think I just left. I just left.
I think by writing
the...
the...
longer after I left.
I think once you left, because when you're in it, that's really hard, but once you left and you did decide to write the book, you did take your power back. You never lost it, it just came through.
Well, but doing the book was very therapeutic for
Yeah.
me, because it was, and then at times going through, when I would sit down and I would write for days, it would be like, I'd be in tears, because it was like reliving it all over again, and I thought to myself, this happened through a span of 3 years, and I'm writing this book quickly, in a span of 3 months for parts of it, and it's like, how could I put my kids through that? But it didn't happen every single day.
Right.
You can't go up there and sit down and say, oh, this, that wasn't how it happened. I mean, we would go months, we would go days with nothing happening. So, it was a little overwhelming when I was writing, and a lot of it I had to, step back from, and that's why it took me so long. I needed a break. I needed a longer break. It was fun. I'm so glad you guys had me on.
Yeah,
I'm
too.
getting tired. That's 12:30. It's way past my
Oh,
bedtime.
yeah. Diane, thank you so much for being our first guest on our new show, and good luck with your book. And I know you're going to sell a lot of copies. A lot of people seem to be very interested in what you have to say. So,
Thank you guys, and thank you everybody for checking in.
thanks everybody for being here tonight. And Diane, if you want to go to bed, honey, you're welcome to go to bed. We'll let you.
Bye guys.
Good night.
Good night, everybody. Thank you.